Yeah, this is Dr. Gregory Jenkins here with Alicia Dukov.
Hello.
And we're continuing our show today about phobias and fears. And you're listening to 1220 KHTS. And if you want to call in, we have a number, 298-5487. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, you want more information, please call us at 298-5487. I'm wondering if more people are afraid of snakes than anything else. I wonder what the biggest phobia is. That seems like psychology talk.
Well, from what I know, hypochondria really is the big one. It's fear of your health. And that's why what we're talking about it today. There are a lot of lesser phobias that a lot of people have. For instance, fear of flying. For instance, agoraphobia is actually a pretty big one. Fear of being in social environments. Fear of being outside of your house or someplace that's safe to you. But really, it's one of those, hypochondria is one of those that kind of spans across the board because it affects so much about us when we worry about our health. And we excessively, we're consumed by looking up the right ways to eat, the right ways to work out, the right ways to, what if I have this? What if I have that? What does this headache mean? The right ways to even diagnose yourself, which you shouldn't be doing. You should be going into a doctor. But then you say the people that come in sometimes, they just worry so much that it's like, you really need to go see a therapist. You're 23 years old. Why do you think you're suffering from a stroke?
That's
so
correct.
I think it's deeper levels present than just looking after your health.
Sometimes we kind of grin and laugh about it, but the truth is, for these people,
it's very real.
It's so real. It's you've probably seen some science fiction movies where they scare people until their heart stops. And that can happen. So they continue to scare people, but whatever your fear is, the machine knows, and it goes against you.
Well, they have a technique in therapy called flooding, which I really don't recommend if you're not somebody that specializes in.
I read about that, yeah.
PTSD, trauma-focused therapy, things that really you need to be aware of what you are flooding that individual with. If that individual presents with symptoms that they seem that would not be conducive to an effective treatment, do not flood. It's a technique that's really very specialized, that when you're presenting the person with the very thing that they're afraid of, and you're flooding them with it, literally, you're allowing those images or the sensation of whatever they're afraid of to happen in an extreme way inside of them. You're not beating around the bush. It's really up to that individual clinical presentation that you would need to establish as a professional to know that person can handle it and that this is the right time to do it in their treatment. Otherwise, why would you want to provoke my deepest fear and make me feel like I'm living it?
Well, those TV shows work on that, the Fear Factor show, where they put you in a box of snakes or lock you in a box of snakes, and you have to stay for whatever time.
But
whatever you're afraid of, they do.
But do you know that you have to be psychologically assessed before you are allowed on that show?
No, I just know I wouldn't want to be on the show.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't qualify with your fear of snakes.
Yeah, fear of snakes.
You might have a clinically diagnosed phobia with that one.
Fear of flying when the snakes get out. The movies.
And what's it called again? You might have clinically diagnosable ophidiophobia.
Ophidiophobia.
Thanks to Justin clarifying that. To be on Fear Factor, you have to be clinically assessed. You have to be psychologically and psychiatrically assessed to not be presenting with any symptoms outside of the normative scale of having any kind of diagnosable illness.
Right.
And then they let you on the show so that they can create a diagnosable illness in you. And I think you have to sign a waiver that says the show's not liable for any disorder I ensue out of what they torture me with.
Oh, by the way, if you sign this, if you have a heart attack,
sorry, it's on you.
It's on you, yeah. We warned you.
So the New York Times, back in 2010, they were actually starting to see this epidemic in the country of people that were excessively worrying about their health. Now, you see this in schools as well. There was a movie that came out last year called Bad Moms.
Right.
I didn't actually see the film, but I read the reviews.
The trailer, yeah.
I saw the trailer as well. Read the reviews, and I read reviews from parents on Huffington Post, which I love. Huffington Post parents, that's one of my favorite forums and places to get articles as a parent and as a millennial, because millennial generation, younger generation here, we have a different way of perceiving the environment, the world in which we live, politically, spiritually, philosophically. We just have a different construct. And to be able to go to a site that has articles that kind of speak to my age group. It's a really powerful thing. Huffington Post Parents is definitely one of those for young parents, younger parents out there. So
I always thought it was a political thing.
No, Huffington Post has like 5 different genres.
Oh, okay.
All led by Ariana Huffington. And HuffPost Parents is specifically for parents. And they talk about babies, and they talk about your child at school, and the nature of like how mothers, they call them mommy wars out there. Moms tearing down other moms because of breastfeeding versus formula versus how to raise your child and not how to raise your child.
Bad Moms is about, yeah.
Right? So this is where I was going. So Bad Moms came out last year. It had great reviews as far as content, not so far as the movie went. I don't think the movie did very well. But a couple of articles that I had read about it were stating that it was making fun of this culture of these over-crazed moms out there that are trying to go gluten-free, sugar-free, wheat-free, I mean, it's not just going to Whole Foods. It's not just eating right. It's like this over-obsessive need to control something that they fear might be affecting them and their children negatively from the environment.
Right.
That is almost phobic.
I wonder, I don't know this answer, I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
For the parents that do that to their kids, do they have fears themselves?
The parents?
Phobias?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's bordering on phobic that they are so concerned with every minute element that goes into not just the food that they eat, but playing on the playground these days. Bumpers everywhere. I just heard a crazy story that at Chuck E. Cheese, which is not the cleanest place in the world anyway. I mean, they've come up with much better ones now. Billy B's out here in Santa Cruz is fantastic, and Sky High. My kid's jumping on a trampoline as we speak right now with Poppy, with my dad. But Chuck E. Cheese. I had clients come in the other day and say that their kids love it, and they went in, and one of the ramps at the top of Chuck E. Cheese that's always there, and you can run through it. It looks like a little hamster, a hamster cage, and the kids run through it, multicolored tunnels, were taken out. And so they actually asked, why were these tunnels taken out? Our kids love the tunnels. And the person representative of Chuck E. Cheese had said that parents had complained that the standards of it weren't safe, so they had the guys in to check it out, and they gave it a grade of A. But these parents wrote back, and a number of them actually petitioned to get these taken down because they didn't feel safe with them up.
Wow.
So even though it had been...
They're engineered for the kids.
They're engineered for the kids. They had the health inspectors in to test for germs. They had the engineering inspectors in to test the structure of these little tunnels. If it's given the grade of A on both, and whatever I know that for Food and Drug Administration, they give A through. You don't even want anything lower than a B.
I think A's.
You just don't go anywhere lower than an A, basically. But for engineering standards, I think they have their own set of criteria, and then on the door or on that thing, on that structure, it will actually state the last time it was inspected and when it passed and how it was approved. So that had been stamped on there. It had like a seal of approval from the last inspectors, and yet the parents were not okay with it. They didn't feel safe. Enough of them signed a petition that said we have to take these down.
Right.
That's phobic at that point.
Yeah, it is. But I wonder if from the business owner, do they lose more money by leaving it up or taking it down?
I don't think they're going to lose money, and I think probably the business owner thought about that, and they spoke with their lawyers, and they spoke with their people who their marketing managers, Mr. Chuck himself, who's in the Maldives, sipping on pina coladas. He's like, what? Chucky who?
That's right.
Oh, that's right. I own those. I mean, they probably really sat down at a table meeting and were like, what are our losses if we choose to keep it up versus taking it down? And I think they made the smart choice, because if you have enough parents complaining about a particular feeling of not being safe, and then that establishment ignores those needs, that is what they're going to be attacked for. They're going to be attacked for not listening to the parents, albeit phobic
then they'll be
needs.
picketing the place.
So I think that they cut their losses pretty fast and then decided just let's take it down.
Right.
Chuck E. Cheese will always be Chuck E. Cheese. You'll always be able to roll the ball up into the holes there.
The little bowling.
You'll always get those tickets. You'll always want that cheap little prize.
Yeah.
But no more hamster cage that the kids can run through. And if they want that, go to Billy B's, because I guess I don't know why parents think that that's safer.
I think some McDonald's, I think McDonald's.
Oh my gosh, yes. All of the McDonald's
One in Canyon
have
Country
them.
has one, I know.
Yeah. But you see, if you go to those, now I'm aware of this as a parent, if you go to those playgrounds, like the ones at McDonald's or the ones, even Billy B. Well, Billy B's is like such an establishment. And they've got like, 10 people around all the time just monitoring every structure. But if you go to like an outdoor playground like Chuck E. Cheese, one of those indoor ones, not Chuck E. Cheese, sorry, the McDonald's ones, you see somewhere there's a little piece of paper stuck into, or it's laminated, or it's sealed up, and it shows the last time it was inspected and approved. And you can see the date on it. I think it has to be within a year for it to be legal. Where it says this was inspected June of 2016.
Right.
Right.
And then when's the reinspection time? It's probably 3 years.
It would be a year later, probably.
1 year, that's pretty fast.
Because think of the wear and tear. The kids are running and jumping and, throwing themselves all over it. There's a certain weight limit. You can't be over a certain weight to jump on a certain thing. All of these standards are now in place because we care and because we try to keep our kids safe. But it goes to the extremes in a lot of ways these days. And I'm not saying that the story we just spoke of, I don't know the particular structure at Chuck E. Cheese and why it was taken down. But I do know that the extremes that we go to can be very unhealthy for us. We become obsessed with trying to find a place to be safe. Really, I think that's what it comes down to. We don't feel safe in ourselves. We don't feel centered. We don't feel balanced. We don't feel secure. And so we actually manifest more of that insecurity through trying to control our external environment than anything else.
Right. Well, I've seen where, back to the parents, sometimes they're just overly worried about their children, and we're talking about that. And I was once at a baseball camp, and there was a little 8-year-old that the dad brought him to camp at 8 o'clock in the morning. They were there for 3 days in a row, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the dad just found a corner, way up in the corner. He sat there all day for 3 days.
The dad?
The dad, just to make sure that everything's good with the little guy.
So maybe that was him in his own childhood not feeling safe, and so manifesting.
I guess that's a baseball helicopter
parent.
Baseball helicopter parent.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about it, why was he sitting there for 3 days? Do you want to think psychologically? It would be like, what is he trying to right the wrong of? What is he trying to control in his inner feelings of feeling insecure?
I always thought it was just that he was one of those helicopter parents.
Yeah, but why are you a helicopter parent?
Because of fears that you have, and you don't want them to be transferred.
That's what I'm saying.
Your baby, yeah.
That's how psychosis works.
Oh, geez,
we are always trying to right the wrongs. Hello, you see the other side of it. You see the physiological, which certainly has its effects. We talked about pain and emotional and physical pain a few weeks ago. Same centers in the brain, right?
That's right.
Well, brain chemistry changes depending on how depressed or anxious you are. Mainly depression can change your brain chemistry. So it is definitely a viable thing to discuss on medical and psychological levels.
I mean, that's sometimes when I give medicines to patients that are psychiatric, I try to make them feel good about taking it. I said, your body's missing this chemical that's in this medicine, just as a diabetic is missing insulin. And there's no bad thoughts about somebody who's taking insulin. And there shouldn't be any bad thoughts about you taking it. You should take it because it makes you better.
And then what diagnoses are you usually referring to?
It's usually the anxiety/depression patients.
Okay. I'm hearing good things about Celexa over Lexapro these days. Can you discuss what your feelings are?
They're almost the exact same medicine. There are only a few chemicals different. So I don't see how biologically they could be different.
Well, I see the people that have been on them. And the people in general are more happy on Celexa if they need an anti-anxiety just to kind of stabilize them while they're in therapy. And of course, I'm sure you also refer, when you give these anti-anxiety medications, you also say you should also be doing concurrent therapy, right?
That's right.
Because that really is what solves it, not the pill. The pill is just going to stabilize you.
Temporary, yeah.
Exactly. It's going to stabilize you temporarily so that you can get yourself to a place of balance and cleansed out,
the American Psychiatric Association recommends either Celexa or Lexapro, which again, we just said they're just almost similar.
Well, okay, so biologically and chemically compounded, they might be. However, I'm hearing more and more in my office and through the grapevine of therapy offices that Lexapro makes you feel like a zombie, and Celexa is better. And I'm not on either one. I just wanted to see if you have heard anything on your side that seems people prefer one over the other.
No, I mean, I'm usually not the primary prescriber. It's usually somebody's moved the community, need these medicines, and they're
refer to a psychiatrist
while they're looking for a psychologist, therapist, or something.
Okay, so you don't actually diagnose for generalized anxiety disorder?
No, I do use some instruments, things that we score to see where they are with it. Mm-hmm. But I think those questions are so simple that if you want to be depressed, you can circle the right answer.
Do you use the Beck's Depression Inventory?
Beck's and Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, Beck's has been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. You use the MMPI too, don't you?
No, I didn't use it too much. I just read about it.
Oh, it's so great. The MMPI is so funny. If anybody's not read it, you should just download it online. You can do that, or at least sample questions. And you brought it up a few weeks ago. They ask you the same questions in different ways over and over and over again,
right,
just to test for like whether or not you're, what your personality is like. Are you a depressed kind of personality? Are you an exuberant kind of personality? Are you an anxiety type of personality? All these different levels. And it's questions like, my broccoli talks to me. Like, it's just, some of them are really odd. And so you're just kind of answering them like, what? So we're talking today about anxiety. We're talking about how this transfers into ways that we're trying to keep ourselves healthy in our worlds, but we go too much to the extreme. And this New York Times article that I pulled up, it was actually called The New Health Rule, Quit Worrying About Your Health. Because what they've been recognizing is that people are, in fact, going just like way too extreme with worrying about it. There was a doctor, Dr. Susan M. Love. She's one of the most respected women's health specialists in the country. She wrote a book called Live a Little, Breaking the Rules Won't Break Your Health. So her book talks about the myth that, to have perfect health, that perfect health is actually a myth. And to try to achieve that is what's causing a lot of the phobias in our
we're always
society.
Breaking down.
Yeah, well, you call it wear and tear. I love that.
Wear and tear, yeah.
Talk about wear and tear. You're a wear and tear guy. I remember you saying it.
We'll be coming back to that in a moment, so.
Okay, lead us out then. You can tell us about wear and tear.
Are we done with this section? I think so. Okay. So anyway, this is Dr. Gregory Jenkins. I'm here with Alicia Dukov, the psychology intern. And
not psychiatric, psychology intern. Clinical.
I'll get it right one of these nights.
Clinical psychology doctorate.
But you're listening to AM 1220 KHTS. The phone number here is 298-5487. We'll see you in a moment.
Hey, and we're back. So we're talking about basic phobias today as we strive so hard to live balanced, healthy lives. And the more extreme we become in trying to achieve this, the less healthy we actually become psychologically, because we are in this crazy cycle of trying to achieve this quote-unquote perfect health that is actually a myth as far as Dr. Love is concerned, clinical professor of surgery at the David Geffen School of Medicine at the University of California at Los Angeles.
She's a breast cancer surgeon.
Right, and she's the head of she's a women's health specialist. And as I was saying before the break, she wrote this book, Live a Little, Breaking the Rules Won't Break Your Health. So the reason why I'm bringing this up today is because a lot of us fall into this place of trying to find a balance, but we're going to the extremes on one side of the spectrum or another. We're doing too much of something, or we're not doing enough of it because we're striving for this balance that we have in our minds that we have to achieve, and that's creating a lot of stress. So this article from the New York Times actually addresses this really well, and that's why I brought it in. They're taking the biggest risks to these areas of our lives that are creating this phobia about us trying to be healthy and trying to be balanced. And they say that it cuts down to sleep, stress, prevention, nutrition, exercise, and relationships. The biggest risks on all of these extremes is that we are trying to find that middle ground. We're going to the extremes instead, and the middle ground is bigger than we think. So we're actually missing the middle ground by trying to go, okay, so nutrition, I have to eat 10 cups of blueberries a day because that's the new general surgeon warning telling me that I need to eat 10 cups of blueberries a day in order to stay healthy. So I'm going to go do that. Next week it's going to say caffeine, any kind of caffeine, even in the smallest amount of tea is bad for you. Throw out all the tea in the cupboard. One week it says red wine is good for you. Oh, great, I can have that glass. the next week it says, sorry, red wine's not good for you. Oh my God, now I'm going to die of a heart attack. We go from one to the other based on what we're told and what we read.
Right.
And it's like you have to find a little bit of your own truth in there. You could be a really healthy person.
You have to live a little.
You have to live a little. That's what the book's talking about.
A piece of chocolate here and there, it's not going to be hurting you.
Oh, yeah. And cacao, real, actual, natural cacao. If you get it in like 80% form.
Sounds Chinese.
No.
Cacao?
Cacao. It's it's South American.
Oh, is it?
CACAO.
Oh.
Cacao. It's so good for you. So the antioxidants in chocolate are the same kind of antioxidants they say is good for you in red wine. But you should know that because you have a vineyard. Right?
The red wine's good for you.
Can you talk a little bit, tiny bit, about the health benefits of red wine?
Well, the red wine, in the skins, they have these chemicals. The grape skins. And when they press them, these things come out into the wine, which is called resveratrol. And what it does is it makes you live longer, as long as you have 2 ounces a day. Not 2 fluid ounces, but I guess that'd be 2 glasses. 4 to 5 ounce glasses a day.
Have you been to Italy?
Yes.
All right. I've been all over Italy. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Every time I'm there, I go with my mom frequently, we see 90-year-old women sitting there, 90-year-old men, women, sitting there after they've walked up a hill to get to that restaurant, having a full carafe of red wine. And they look healthy, and they're engaged, and they got a sparkle in their eye, and they're 90 years old, drinking that red wine, eating that bread, eating that olive oil, not apologizing for it.
Well, they're fit enough to walk up the hill.
That's it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
there's something to it.
I used to give lectures on longevity. Why do people live a long time? And one of the things is they have to have a job where they have some physical labor, like the farmers. And in Russia, there's a place in Georgia, Russia. There's a place in Mexico. There's a place in England where people live a long time because their body, they drink alcohol. Everybody has a couple. So there's some kind of aspirin substance in their diet, whether they take it or they eat some kind of food type of thing that has aspirin built into it.
One of the greatest stories, and I guess we'll wrap it up on this because we have a few minutes left. The greatest story about this that I've ever heard is when somebody went and visited this 117-year-old man and said, "What is your secret to life?" And he said, "I don't argue." And the commentator, the journalist, was like, no, there's got to be something else. The guy's like, no, I'm telling you, I just don't argue. No, there has to be something else that you do. Is it what you eat? Is it how much you sleep? Is it your workout routine? Like, what is it? Do you meditate? Okay, you're right. He just didn't argue. It's the greatest story ever, and it reminds us maybe this is where we're all going with this. That balance that you're seeking external to you is not found in the food we eat. It's actually going to be found inside of you. If you come in, if you find that center inside where you find that happiness, that balance, that's your homeostasis, that's your equilibrium.
Right.
And that's what you can manifest every day of your life external to you to live a happier, better you. So thanks for joining us today, you guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.